Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, the moment has arrived. If it's Sunday, it means the fate of the world will be decided. We will be selecting our thumbs ups and thumbs down for the week. So the consequences will be dire. So I'll go first. I'm not exactly sure whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I think it's a little bit of both. I think the US response to Cuba was, of course, predictable. We had all the Marco Rubio windbags, and we had the guy from New Jersey, Menendez, exactly. The usual blowhard.
The most corrupt member of Congress.
Exactly.
And not saying something.
Say something, exactly. So yeah, everything was predictable, and you had people calling for the use of force. But what was surprising was that now there are forces, quite extensive forces on the right, who are just simply not taking this anymore. I mean, that includes Tucker Carlson, but there are many others who have expressed great annoyance by the idea that the United States should presume to lecture Cuba on political prisoners while it's holding I don't know how many people in detention without bringing any without bringing them to trial, or it's essentially it's charged almost 600 people now over essentially a skirmish, trespassing in the Capitol Hill. So it's very hard to start berating Cuba on that. And then when Biden had the nerve to say, well, we're very worried about the Cuban government cutting off the internet. We are going to provide the internet for Cuba. And I thought, just a minute. Haven't you just been cracking down on the internet here in the United States? Now you're going to be worrying about the availability of the internet for Cubans. So it was refreshing that there were people just saying, enough of this nonsense. We're just not going to listen to this stuff about Cuba, which you've been peddling for 60 years.
Well, that dovetails into my definite thumbs down about censorship and access to the internet here. Why the DNC is involved in this, and we did an earlier video on this in the week. But you know what's different about this is that they're transparent about their call for censorship. This is interesting here, okay? I mean, and it seems to be that they feel that there are going to be no consequences for it because their flacks in the media are going to back them up here. Of course, this person should be deplatformed. And Jen Psaki said, and if you're banned on one, you should be a universal. But why is the government I thought they were private companies. Okay, right. They keep changing it, don't they? They want it both ways at the same time. And now that you mentioned Cuba, I'd like to just throw in my 2 cents here. I don't call it communism or socialism. I don't think it's neither here nor there. It is the Cuban project, and I leave it at that. It's their project, okay? Now, if you don't like their project, it's a failure, well, then why don't you lift the embargo? I mean, if it's a failure, I mean, so leave it alone, okay? If it's failed, it's failed, okay? So why do you need the embargo? The disingenuous voices that you hear, the embargo has nothing to do with it. That is so dishonest, everyone. It's inhumanely dishonest. All right. So I think you hit the nail on the head. You're talking about the dissidents and freedom of expression here, and the January 6th trials are ahead of us. And of course, George, we're going to see them culminate right before the 2022 election. No coincidence there.
That's right. And of course, when you say the trials are ahead of us, that's well into next year. So that means there will be people sitting in jail, essentially without trial, for more than a year. Now imagine again, if this was in Cuba, imagine that there were a noisy demonstration in Havana, and Cuba decided we're going to bring charges. It's 600 and counting as far as the US DOJ is concerned, because they haven't stopped tracking down these grannies with their canasta glasses, tracking them down. So they're all they're planning on bringing them all to trial. Imagine if this was in Cuba and people would just be sitting in solitary and who haven't been convicted of anything. Again, Americans would be just fulminating. So you can't go on talking about political prisoners, without, you're starting to address what's going on here. And this particularly applies to these awful Republican gas bags. So that's why I said it's thumbs up. In that suddenly people from the right are attacking Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and the rest of the Republican Party establishment. They're saying, why don't you, use some of this energy to address the abuses that are going on in Washington, D.C. What the hell are you talking about Havana? I mean, you're not gonna change anything in Havana one way or the other. Here, you might be able to make an impact. You're not going to make an impact in Havana.
And they've been trying to do it for 60 years.
Right.
No country on the planet has felt the hard fist of American foreign policy than Cuba. And you know what, George? They're still standing.
Yeah.
Okay? They're still standing. There are Americans that go to Havana to study film. There are Americans that go to Havana to become doctors. All right. And then you have countries, all these new right-wing countries, they throw out the Cuban doctors. And then when the doctors leave, they say, oh, we need doctors in rural areas. Can we bring back the Cuban doctors? Okay. And it's just, this is just ideology that is so bankrupt here. Like I said, and I'm going to be very clear about it. This is their experiment. Let them do what they want to do. If people want to protest, they should be able to protest. If they want to leave, they should be able to leave. Okay. The interesting thing just popped in my mind here. But Haiti, don't come to America. Cubans don't come to America. But I suppose if you could get to the southern border, who would know? Okay, because we have no idea who's coming in the country.
That's right, exactly. The main thing is to lose your papers. I mean, you lost your papers, you lost your papers. Prove that I'm not a Cuban. But of course, that is a very interesting issue, because of course, when the administration says to Cubans, don't come, I think there's a reason for that. Cubans tend to vote against the Democrats. Cubans tend to be on the right. And so those are not the good immigrants. We want immigrants who are going to vote for the Democrats. So that's why, Cubans, no, so that's why, they're suddenly adopting this very different stance on.
Yeah, I think if someone got off a boat, I don't think they're going to want to meet AOC.
Right. Yes. No, but it is just very amusing that they suddenly, no, these are immigrants we don't want. So only let in the people that we do want.
You see what happens with these political elites? They just tie themselves up into pretzels, okay? Because they're just incompetent people. Okay. Tony Blinken, this is a thumbs down. Tony Blinken has suggested that there should be an international investigation into systemic racism in America. What is this guy doing? I mean, where is this guy coming from? Okay. Who is he virtue signaling to? Okay. This is what I find really bizarre. His job is to conduct diplomacy on behalf of the United States around the world. What little diplomacy is left in American politics, okay? This guy is just a screw up. I can't understand him at all, George.
Yeah. No, well, that was also going to be one of my thumbs down. And it's a fascinating insight, because of course, we're showing to the world our own flaws. Now, when somebody like Blinken says our flaws, he doesn't, of course, mean his personal flaws, because Blinken would never dream of thinking that he's a racist, or he's ever worked for any business that is racist, or any of his friends are racist, or anyone in his family is racist. No, it's the other people who are racist, the sort of the great unwashed, the deplorable,
who he has never met.
Yeah. And that's, in fact, that's very interesting. A part of the American elite who talk about systemic racism. You say, well, who are you referring to? I mean, is Harvard racist? I mean, are the banks racist? Is Wall Street racist? So, wait, you obviously don't know. Are the foundations racist? No. Who's racist? Again, these terrible people that we don't like. I mean, these are the great unwashed. So when they say, "Oh, we're open to criticism," no, you're not open to criticism. You want to criticize these Trump supporters, these awful people who never vote for you. They are the bad guys. That's who you should.
So what you're saying is that Blinken wants the UN to come in and to charge the Trump supporters with crimes against humanity.
Right.
We need blue helmets in red states now. These people are utter lunatics. Lunatics. Okay, so that's my thumbs down.
Okay, that's yeah, a good one. You know, my next thumbs down is the news that the people who worked on the Mueller team have all apparently lost their telephones. So we already had the problem before that some of them had wiped their telephones clean, all the messages. So now it turns out they lost their phones. Now, what's sort of remarkable about this is government property. Remember, you know, they just lost government property. Is there's never any repercussions for this. So, you know, imagine if, you know, some ordinary, you know, again, the granny with the canister glasses, she loses government property or she wipes her phone. I think she's going to be prosecuted. But these people said, oh, well, okay, we lost our phone. It's amazing. So, you know, just like that, 2/3 of the people who work for Mueller all lost their phones. I mean, it's, you know, amazing incompetence.
No, and I didn't know it. When you get the password wrong 3 times, it wipes it. I've never heard of that. It just locks it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, George, I'm glad you brought it up because we go back to Dr. Strangelove. If it had been a Coca-Cola machine, remember the scene, this is private property, you're going to have to go up to the Coca-Cola company when they were trying to get some change. Get some change to make a telephone call. Okay.
Right, but again,
I mean,
yeah, go
ahead.
No, I was just saying that you could see the standard that applies throughout the U.S. justice system. I mean, we have people who work for the FBI who lie, who destroy documents, who forge documents, and either they're not prosecuted or like this guy Kleinsmith, he gets a tap on the wrist, no jail time at all. I mean, imagine you actually forge a document to get it to show what is the opposite of the truth. And
there's a book deal in this.
Right, exactly. All you get is community service, and he doesn't even get disbarred. Imagine that. This is someone who's not even going to get disbarred, so he's going to continue practicing law. And again, these people just lose their government property or wipe it clean. In other words, basically government records. That's a violation of, there's a law about government records. You have to preserve government records. They don't, hey, them's the breaks. Let's go on to my wonderful job at some white shoe law firm, Latham and Watkins. $500,000 a year. Would that be enough for you? No, I'd like $1 million, please.
And that's what Giuliani should have done. He should have forged a document. He'd still have his license.
That's right.
All righty. Thumbs down. The attempted resurrection of Russiagate. Luke Harding is back, okay? The worst journalist of the Russiagate orbit, and there's some really bad ones out there, okay? But another bite at the apple never hurts, and there's an appetite for it, obviously. They can't admit they got it wrong, so they're just going to keep digging down that rabbit hole, okay? Right. And it's amazing the number of people that have picked this up, which, of course, I think that was the intention. A number of people, Paul Robinson has written about it. We've had Joe Loria over at Consortium News write about it. I suggest
I wrote about it as well. I wrote about it at the Gaggle, and then I wrote about it on my Substack blog. So anyone wants to read it, they can read what I've written about it. So anyway, go on. There's so many problems with his new thesis that I don't really want to waste our time on it. Again, it's just an attempt to resurrect a conspiracy theory that has been debunked over and over and over again. Yeah,
okay, that's my.
Well, so the couple of interesting points there is also that it has an effect. I mean, yes, people can knock it. I will knock it. Aaron Maté will knock it. Ray McGowan will knock it. But it has an effect because it gets transmitted on Twitter and people pass it around and say, oh yeah, look. Now, this is the definitive proof. What we've been saying was right all along. Putin stepped in 2016 to get Trump elected. So it has that effect. But it also shows that the political establishment is absolutely panic-stricken about the return of Trump. They are petrified that another 2016 will happen again. I mean, go on.
The interesting thing is that Putin pulled it off in 2016. Why didn't he pull it off in 2020?
Very good question. Yes, no one's ever been able to
Wasn't
answer
that
that
touch?
particular. Yes, yes, that's right.
So Putin was outwitted by the Biden basement strategy.
Yes,
Wow. Okay.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. No, that's right. But that's it. I mean, they're trying to get everything in. I mean, they've already thrown 2 impeachments at him, and then you had the whole media hysteria for 3-4 years about Russia, Russia, Russia. Pulitzer prizes, right? But the New York Times, Washington Post, they collected Pulitzer prizes for their Russiagate coverage, and Trump is this, the hydra-headed monster. He's still there. They have not destroyed him. So getting Russiagate 2.0, get that in as early as possible.
Well, that okay. Get the you're up.
Okay. So my next thumbs down is something that's actually flying under the radar, which is that the Biden administration is trying to get a major immigration amnesty legislation through under the budget reconciliation process, because of course, as everyone knows, on the budget reconciliation, you only need a majority of 1. And so when you have a 50-50 split in the Senate, and then Harris can give the decisive vote. So basically, they're going to try and get this through, something that they know they have no ability to get an immigration amnesty through the Senate, because that would be subject to the filibuster. They have no way of getting that, because now Manchin and Sinema said that they're not going to get rid of the filibuster. So they're using essentially a budget reconciliation process to facilitate this pathway to citizenship. And the estimates are that something like 10 million will be eligible. We can be absolutely certain that it's going to be far more than 10 million. That's what we've always known about amnesties, is that they always say, oh, it's going to be 5-6 million. No, it's going to be 2, 3, 4 times that number. So this is a very serious piece of legerdemain from the Biden administration. At the moment, it's just flying under the radar, but it's something that should be watch out for.
You've actually touched upon it, a thumbs down here. We're getting a whole slew of kiss and tell books about the waning months, days, and hours of the Trump administration. And just to reiterate, you took the wind out of my sails. Again, this is a concerted attempt. If you love him or hate him, okay, that's neither here nor there, in my opinion, to make sure that they control the political landscape. So Trump or any other kind of populist or a populist-like candidate comes to power, they're terrified. They're shaking in their boots and they're rallying all of their resources. And these books, I mean, some of the excerpts and lines that have come out, they're just completely unverifiable. I mean, it's just, he said, she said, third party, anonymous source. I mean, these are basically, without corroboration, these are just books of fiction, okay? Yeah. And again, all it is just polluting the public sphere. And I think this also adds to a topic that we've talked about, is to keep a focus, but maybe on the periphery of January 6th. January 6th, this is the mother lode for them, okay? Right. And that's why I keep stressing it. They're never going to let this thing go. It's like one of my dachshunds. It's got a bone. They're not going to let it go.
No,
that's like this one.
Yeah. These books, without question, are worthless. I mean, it's a style of writing that was pioneered by Woodward and Bernstein, which is you just report things, and as to the source, no sources are provided. So therefore, why believe anything? I mean, you can just make it up out of whole cloth, and you say, well, who told you that? What's your evidence for it? Well, I'm not going to provide you with
deep background.
Yeah,
deep background.
But it's nothing. I mean, unless it's verifiable, unless somebody can say, I was definitely there. I said that. That's what Trump said, and I can vouch for that because I was there. No one ever says that. So all of these things, like one of the books, I mean, there's so many of them now, said, Trump expressed, when he was in Europe in 2018, he expressed admiration for Hitler. Now you think, well, that's an interesting piece of information, and it's taken 3 years for us to find out that Trump, in his own way, would just say admiration for Hitler. So you just come out with this stuff, and just like Jeffrey Goldberg at that same trip would talk about, oh yeah, Trump expressed derision for the people who died, fighting for their country. Where's your evidence for that? And then you get some reporters.
Also,
yeah.
in the last, because of the Merkel's farewell visit to Washington, apparently Trump referred to her as the bitch, but no one's coming forward saying where that came from. Okay, right. Again, this is just, it's just really astounding to what lengths every single moment they have. They did this for the entire Trump administration, right. And they can't let go of it, because if you're not talking about that, your audience goes away. Okay. Right. And look at all of the cable stations, all the broadsheets are all in trouble. And now they want to go after podcasts and Substack, okay, because they need to control everything, okay? Going to your original thumbs down about controlling political discourse and freedom of speech. These right. people are dangerous.
They are. And one should also say something about the awfulness of some of the people that Trump hired. Now, there was a time, if somebody gives you a job, a very prestigious job, you should at least be grateful that you got this job. You had a year, 18 months, a very prestigious position. You don't come out and say, okay, well, I don't have that job now, but I'm going to make a ton of money writing a book telling what a disgusting and stupid person my boss is. It's just not done. Bolton did that. And then you have people like there's John Kelly, supposedly this distinguished military person, he's served this country and what. Well, intellectual. You do that, you should at least have some decency and respect the person who gave you a very big job with big responsibilities. Minimum. You can criticize the person, but don't go into this kind of what he said, mumble.
Yeah, but that's the caliber of these people.
Salary-made stuff. And
it's the caliber of our culture right now. Okay, everything is lurid, everything to the lowest common denominator. It's these people that are supposed to be more virtuous and better than we are, George. They're the ones that's pulling everything down. Everything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Okay. So the next one is the disclosure this week that apparently the assistant DOJ, or the assistant U.S. attorney for Delaware, chose not to go ahead with prosecuting Hunter Biden. He apparently, said, well, this is not a good idea to do this during a election year. Though, would have to say, the Mueller team were not in any way bound by anything like, this election, there's a midterm election, so we better not do any, issue any kind of indictments that might affect the outcome of the midterms. So it's an extraordinary thing, the way the Justice Department can just make these decisions. I think that this is an election year, so we probably shouldn't really pursue this case. That's not your business. You are a career prosecutor. You need to follow whatever the evidence is, not according to what the politics is. But the interesting, again, abysmal quality of our media, the media is very. This is obviously a very wise person, very safe pair of hands. He's basically a total corrupt hack.
Okay, well, the election's over.
Yeah, election's over. Yeah, where is this investigation? Yes, just like, where's Durham? It's like.
I think he's just an avatar. I don't think he actually exists. There's only that one picture of him.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think so either. Yeah. It was invented by Bill Barr. There is his hot on the trail.
Okay. All righty. George F. Will, which I didn't know he was still alive.
I didn't know that either. Yeah, but yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, he wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post on July 16th.
Yes.
And it's titled, which I think is just truly extraordinary, "Civilized Nations' Efforts to Deter Russia and China Are Starting to Add Up." Civilized nations. Okay. And so there's the juxtaposition of civilized nations and Russia and China.
Right.
Okay. Yes. Did Russia and China illegally invade Iraq? No.
Nope.
Okay. Were they at Abu Ghraib? No, they weren't. Okay. Did they make Gitmo? Were they part of all these extreme renditions? No. Okay. And have they blockaded a country for 60 years because they wouldn't toe the line? And did they blockade a country that was protecting its sovereignty? I mean, this is North Korean propaganda. I mean, this is disgusting. Okay. And George F. Will actually had some currency many decades ago. And this is where it's got.
That was a long time.
Among a lot of people, he did. Okay. I mean, and he was involved in debate. Okay. This is not debate. This is crushing the public sphere of any kind. I mean, when you get down to making that kind of juxtaposition, it means you don't have any interest in real politics, in real the dynamics of ideology and things like this. It's really, really awful stuff. And it was actually carried twice as an article and as an op-ed, which was really strange to me. Right. You can see the picture of it on Moon of Alabama.
Right, it's an execrable piece of writing. And he uses that cliche about, oh, these are the enemies of the rules-based order. But now the rules-based order is resisting Russia and China. And again, then you think, just as you went through that list, well, let me think. Did they invade Iraq? Something that George Will supported. Did they bomb Yugoslavia? Something, again, George Will supported. So all of these things, what the West has done, again, like you talk about the embargo against Cuba, George Will has supported all of these things, all of these policies, which are all a violation of international law, all in violation of UN Security Council resolution. George Will supported. And then he gets to, the world is finally resisting the rules-based order with that pompous, blow-dried look.
But the fact of the matter is that Russia and China are resisting this hegemonic grasp. Right. Okay. I mean, it's upside down, and Russia and China do not phrase it in terms of civilizations threatening one or the other, or even denying that the West has a civilization.
That's a particular poisonous. This is why I disagree with your take on Will. That Will was once a good guy. Will has always been poisonous.
No, I never said he was a good guy. What I'm saying is he backed positions I didn't agree with, but it was during a time where people actually had a discussion, when people like John Mearsheimer was on television, when Stephen Cohen was on television, even Phil Donahue was still on television. That's what I'm getting.
Those are good guys, the ones you just mentioned.
I agree, but that was part of the conversation. Now we never have that conversation, and you have only George F. Wills. That's my point.
No, that's fine. But I'm just making the point that Will has always made this a civilizational thing, because I remember during the 1990s, he was talking about Chechnya, and he was saying, Chechnya and Bosnia. He said, well, what's really happening here is this barbarity of the Orthodox Christians against Islam. That was it. He said, oh, there's a real link between Bosnia and Chechnya, Orthodox Christian barbarity against Islam. He has always been a poisonous figure. And he has got away with it, with that whole look that he has cultivated. Professorial.
Who was the other commentator that was on Fox that died recently? He was disabled.
Krauthammer.
Yeah, they were connected at the hip.
Exactly, also a poisonous figure. Yeah, that's right. So,
I mean, just for me, it is just so extraordinary that we've gotten to this point where you deny people of being civilized. This is how you demonize. This is how you create. Creates a momentum for conflict, because it is good against evil. When the people that are pretending or claiming to be good, they're the ones that are preparing us for a war that they want.
Exactly, because what he is doing here, the way he talks about the Russians and the Chinese, is saying that these are people who don't understand freedom. They don't understand democracy. They don't understand these civilized values. They are inherently barbarian. That's what he thinks, and that's consistent. It's always been a consistent thread. Remember, Reagan said at some point in the 1980s, there's no Russian word for freedom. somebody must have told him
Which
this
is
piece
not
of nonsense.
true.
Probably George Will, because he was quite close to Reagan. But that's always, and you remember during the demonization of the Serbs during the 90s, it was always the same thing. Well, these are really savage people who have never really had the Enlightenment, the Renaissance, and all these things. That's why they're so primitive and they do these terrible things. It's all these people like Will are truly bad, because most people don't know any history. So Will tells them this thing. So what? Okay, well, these are people. Obviously,
Isn't it really amazing? Two countries, Russia and China, that have no civilization,
right.
though they can put people into space.
Right.
Okay, they have a nuclear energy. They have advanced physics and mathematical geniuses, chess geniuses, but all that can exist because, in spite of the fact that they have no civilization. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So my next point is we have I mean, we touched on this before, but this week, for instance, so Twitter suspended Alex Berenson. Alex Berenson, he was a former
Is he
New
still
York Times
suspended?
journalist. Sorry?
Is he still suspended?
I'm not sure whether the suspension is still in place, but he was suspended. I mean, if you get a suspension, I mean, that's a clear warning, that the thing, not good things are ahead of you. So Twitter does this, and this comes in at the same time as what we talked about earlier with Jen Psaki talking about how government is going to be telling Facebook what messages to take down, whom to deplatform. And we've also learned that government is in the similar talks with Twitter, that also whom to deplatform, whom to take down. And so we have this, and you would thought the media would be, they'd be troubled by this. They say, hey, well, what the hell's going on? I mean, we're under threat here. We should be, whether you agree with Berenson or you agree with any of the anti-vaxxers, you, as a journalist, you should be, because of your profession, in favor of free speech. But instead, there's been a lot of clapping, and there are tweets celebrating the suspension of Berenson. So, it's really troubling that the media take this attitude instead of attacking the administration. If you look at the Washington Post and Politico have been writing attacks on Peter Doocy, the one Fox reporter, actually challenging the administration. And so what do? Instead of attacking the administration for the threat to free speech, they're attacking Peter Doocy. He's the one they're attacking.
George, I mean, for 4 years, we were told that Trump was at war with the media.
Right.
And who's at war with the media? And journalists are cheering it. Right. It's beyond bizarre.
Right.
Okay. Right. They're having their wings clipped left and right, and they're saying this is good for us. Yes. It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. And we have no evidence that Trump was at war with the media, maybe with nasty tweets. But other than that, we don't have any evidence of it. Okay, the Obama administration did. Yes. Okay, I suppose Joe learned something when he was VP, because now it's being repeated.
Yes, that's right. And this thing is also being repeated. So when they attack Tucker Carlson, instead of saying, well, we need to get to the bottom of the NSA, these are serious charges. Instead, all of the focus has been, oh, Tucker Carlson is lying. He's making all this up. He's a drama queen. The NSA wouldn't do such things. The NSA wouldn't do such things. I mean, all that we've found out about the NSA in recent years, and you give the NSA the benefit of the doubt. Instead, you're attacking Tucker Carlson. These really are not journalists. I mean, these are not practicing journalists. I mean, they're just essentially propagandists.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah, I don't. Me too. I don't have any. Well, one other thing. I mean, I guess it's just. We mentioned it before. Last week we had the UEFA Euro final, which England lost to Italy, lost
I
it on.
didn't mention it, but I did have it down.
Lost it on penalties. Very hard, very painful for any side that loses on penalties. But what happened was that England only scored 2 of the penalties. They missed 3 of the penalties. It so happened that 2 of the players who scored the penalties were white. 3 of the players who missed their penalties were black. And apparently, there was a aroused attacks on Twitter and social media, racist attacks. I haven't seen them, but I'll believe it. Okay, I'll take your word for it. The problem is that then the government, Boris Johnson and the rest of them, started screaming and made this into the huge issue, and Prince William stepped in and said, racism, racism, racism. Look, reprehensible to send out racist tweets, but it's the nature of the internet where people are anonymous. They're going to say lots of nasty, mean things about others, particularly people who are paid huge sums of money, presumably to do their professional jobs. I mean, let's say, if you're paid, $500,000 a week, then the minimum you expect is that you'll be able to score from a penalty. But all right, but be that as it may, to turn this essentially a minor, irrelevant, silly thing into a national crisis and accuse everyone of racism is just so reprehensible. I mean, they say, well, Twitter took down 1,000 tweets. So 1,000 tweets. There are tens of millions of people around the world saw this match. 1,000 is just simply nothing. I mean, it's a statistically insignificant number.
And those people just do it to trigger people too. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but my spin on this was The Economist said that the England's team was too white. Okay.
No, Italy's team was too white.
Italy's team was too white. Which when I came across that, and it was more like a factoid box. I didn't go into it deeply, but I was just wondering what they would say about the Nigerian team. Was it too black?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Why don't we just focus on who plays football the best? I don't care what their color is. I just want competence. That's all.
That's it. And and that's why people get frustrated. And then when in a football match they get very emotional, and they let their fingers on the keyboard do nasty things. Probably the people we're talking about are teenagers, probably even less than teenagers, probably very, very, very young children who have no idea what they're saying. They're just absolutely ranting and raving and angry about the outcome. But to make this into a kind of a national crisis day after day, oh my God, we're all racist in England. There's no evidence that everyone in England's racist. But again, it goes back to the thing which we talked about. Why people like Blinken. It's a useful cudgel for elites to talk down and to demean and to hold in contempt the great unwashed masses.
And in the meantime, we have growing monopolization of the economy. Exactly. We have great inflation. Right. The middle class is again being squeezed. We have uncontrolled immigration into the United States. Right. We have NATO going into the Black Sea causing trouble. And we have a used, easily forgettable pundit calling us the civilized and they are not the civilized. And they have an argument like this. It's like I keep saying, there's a fire in your house, but you call the police because you see someone stealing a bike down the street.
Yes. No, that's right. That's very good. Very, very good analogy. All right, I'm out. So, that's the thumbs up.
Let the chips fall as they may.
Exactly. So some people, I think, will be breathing a sigh of relief. They thought they were done for this week. Don't worry. There's a next week coming up.
All right, everybody. We're on Local, so type in thegaggle.locals.com. George and I are doing, and now it's turning into a regular thing. We're doing a series of chats on via Zoom with gagglers. It's a lot of fun. We learn a lot from you, even though you have questions of us. We also are very proud to announce that the Google store, Gaggle store has been launched. Actually, we had a little bit of traction, quite proud of that. Go take a look at the store. There's lots of nice, fun things. It's just the beginning. We're just testing the market, see what people want. Also, what else are we doing here?
We're doing a Q&A. In other words, we're welcoming people to come up to offer questions that you would like to ask us. And then we will, on a regular basis, maybe once a week, have a special podcast in which we're going to try and answer as many of them.
I think they call it an AMA, Ask Me Anything. I think that's
Ask Me Anything, yes. Within reason, not, the rest of paprika's churka or chicken paprika. So, but,
we're pretty transparent. Okay.
Exactly.
Hey, buddy, you want to say hi, bud? Okay, come on. There we go. And if you like Buddy, you can get a Buddy mug. Okay,
Buddy mug. They're great. They're excellent mugs. All right. So remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.